All right, cyber traders, welcome on back here for another fantastic edition of our Traders Talk Workshop here this Tuesday, January 23rd. Great to see Chris, Larry, Mike, Grant, got Herbert, got Al, got all of us just joining us here inside our live trading room. And if you're joining us as well on social media, Facebook Live, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, the works, etc., hey, at Cyber Trading U, be a friend, tell a friend. Look to spread the good word here at Cyber Trading University. Looking to follow the big orders out there within the stock market, at least for specific equities day to day. And with that, we stream live Monday through Friday. Let me actually get my webcam up and running for all of us here collectively. See my ugly mug here for a little bit. There we go. I got the old mug right showing here. It should be good to go. If not, then might have a small little issue on my laptop for the most part, but otherwise should be good to go, at least with voice. So with that said, here we are on a roll with DWAC. Not just today, but obviously from yesterday, and not only just from yesterday, but from even last week, of course. So, I got a few different emails this morning heading into Traders Talk to begin. Just, can you go over DWAC, right? And I normally don't like discussing a level 5 stock, not because, we don't trade them. We do. But I'd probably say the majority of our members inside our live trading room are more level 1 to level 3 traders, just anywhere in that group. Meaning that you are traders that likely should be looking to focus on stocks that have thinner or more filled in order books, stocks that have a better spread. Yeah, it looks like the webcam is not working there, Grant. Yeah, figures as much. Small little issue with my laptop I do this off of here for today. So be it. We work without my ugly mug. But either way, at least, a stock like this, I had to cover, right? Just how did we end up calling this out? What were the best trades on it? It's easy to say, it went from 20 up to 50 over the last week. Well, hey, over the last week, we've started to call it out really since Trump won the caucus. Like him or hate him, this stock moves when he is, let's say winning or in the news in any light, up or down. And hey, for a stock to move up, news came out over the last week with him winning that caucus, and it popped even from last week. So the only issue on this trade that I have is that the order book thins out badly, especially for this stock. Just for any trade, the more that it goes up and up and up, the spread widens. So that's not just for this, it's for any trade. But for this damn thing, when it was at $20, $25, it was still on a 10-cent spread. It was still on a fluctuating big spread. And that doesn't make it easy for anyone, let alone new students or inexperienced day traders, to follow the big orders out there on level 3 and level 4. I'm actually going to pull up the NASDAQ Bookviewer here. I know that you happen to see the TradeStation matrix, which is on the far right of my screen. But for as thin as that looks, I want to show you it on NASDAQ Bookviewer even. So for DWAC, for a small example, we're basically going to cover this thing from head to toe, even from yesterday, namely. But really what we're going to focus on is the spread. And this thing is just on a big one now. The lowest order on the ask is 47.45. Your top order on the bid is 47.28 or so. So you're looking at like an 18 to 20 cent spread live right now on NASDAQ. And yes, it's going to close up a small amount, but it's going to open up that much more too on any random pop or drop. This is a very thinly traded equity. And I can only imagine, I haven't even looked into it, but I can only imagine that the option chain is that much thinner as well. So, hey, let's just actually recap this from yesterday. I could just tell you from the little research I did, it was like, I saw some traders call it a gamma squeeze. I don't know. I don't know what that is. It's just some option term for where you see a big short squeeze, basically, right? It's just a very heavily shorted stock that perhaps on the option side of things too is also very heavily shorted or, very heavily put driven. And eventually those puts are going to have to close out. So that is kind of what we're alluding to there. It's a short squeeze, right? For as much as this ran up even back in late 2021 and dropped off, well, eventually the shorts are going to cover. So that's what happened, right? But even without knowing that, I want to go over this because it's actually that much more important. Like, I assume that most of us don't know what the hell a gamma squeeze is. I don't, there's probably a couple people that do and give you a good definition. But that leads me to say you don't need to know what that is in order to trade up and down, in order to follow a chart, in order to follow level 3 and level 4, namely, right? So what happened on this trade? Well, of course, from last week, we were calling it out. It was on our radar, but once again, it took off early in the morning. And listen, you can't keep expecting a stock to push up and up and up and up and up and up. I don't care if they've cured cancer. Eventually, you're going to see profit taking. Eventually, you're going to see a point of consolidation, right? If you're familiar with what's called the Wyckoff method, right? Very similarly, you're going to see a bit of a retracement, if not a full collapse over time, and then a rebuilding phase. It's just here at least. Once again, we had another pop. All right, fine. It ended up throwing me off a little bit. Maybe I was expecting more of a pullback and then support to build. Man, it ended up just continuing to grind up and up and up and up and up and up and up all throughout the damn day. And I'm looking at this trade on level 3 and level 4 for any sort of clue. Give me anything. The spread is really bad. So I'm not going to try and trade it if there's no extreme clue for me to try and buy. How about this really quick? Let me ask all of us here inside our live trading room, at least, what would you consider an extremely good clue to jump into any trade? Like if you're looking at a chart, you're uncertain, right? You're very uncertain about the move. Maybe not. What would give you that tip over the edge where you would look to buy? What would give you that big point where you say, oh, crap, or wow, this is here. Okay, let me buy. I just want to hear from you. I'm not looking for a specific answer. Well, I'm sure there's one or two that I'm sure a few of us will say, but open-ended question. Let me know what you think, folks. One of us wrote tight spread, good volume, steady uptrend. But if that was the case, then I would be buying every stock that had a tight spread, steady uptrend, and good volume, right? What gives you that selling point? You're unsure about a trade, even if it has a good spread. Like if you're just watching an extremely tradable stock, not even this. Let's say you're following level 1 trade. Bell says breaking through a huge iceberg on the way up. Okay, so that could be something, right? Hey, if you are turning over to a stock and at first you're unsure of it, and then all of a sudden you look at level 3 and you see a massive iceberg order and it breaks over it, namely, right? Well, hey, that could be a pretty good entry. Now that we can go more into the semantics of, what do we call huge? What do we call a huge iceberg order? Is it 10,000, 50,000? That's where the more that you're watching us here in our trading room, you get to learn really a stock's personality and how big can be, or how big should be. So, that would be one thing. I like that answer, Bell. But, hey, on the flip side, I know a couple of us wrote it before, similar to be said. What happens if there's a massive iceberg order on the buy side that pops up? Fausto screams about it all the time. A ladder. You got to have a ladder out there on the bid. Or if there is one, you'll get very excited, right? All right, well, wouldn't that be a great reason to try and jump into a trade, or at least that tipping point where you're just like, oh, okay, now this is here? So that's just something I ask. And hey, there could be other answers with that too. Those aren't the only answers, mind you. It could be any level that you somehow stumble on. What if you're looking at a trade and all of a sudden you're like, okay, let me go back on the daily chart here and just take a look. And you're like, oh, shoot, well, take a look here. It looked like it was kind of rounding off right around 42.50-ish, 42-ish here. And then it broke down. Well, okay, well, that daily chart level, that could be a new level here for this given day or for yesterday, right? And let's just say if the stock is right at that price when you find that level, and if it looks as easy on the eyes as you see it as, then you should have confidence in using that as a level to enter off of, mind you. So we'll even look at PLUG in a little bit, see if that ends up making a nice little push for us over time, because that's kind of similar. I was on a coaching call with one of our students just before, and we were kind of looking at a certain level from there. It pops it. That could be a good setup, right? All right, so that brings me to, well, it was the order book. It was level 3 and level 4 on DWAC that really made me kind of oh, shoot, let's take a look at this. So you see how thin this order book is right now. This is just regular old level 3. You got the NASDAQ Bookviewer here too, which is also level 3. Look at this right here, actually. A good example. Let's just compare. You got a 13,000 share order on the bid at 45, right? See that there? If everybody sees that 13,091 share iceberg, just give me a letter Y in the chat right now. It's on the buy side at 45, where my cursor is pretty much. Everybody see that? Just want to make sure we're on the same page. So making sure we see who's awake behind the wheel and who's sleeping behind the wheel here. No, I'm teasing. So with saying that, at least, okay, looking at that order compared to everything else there, that looks pretty damn big to me. Compared to everything else here, this looks enormous compared to everything. You know, so that's where I'll talk to you about what happened yesterday. And yesterday, this is moving up and up and up and up and up and up and up. I was not in this trade at this point. It was moving up without me. Folks, there are trades that move up without us all the time. Who gives a you-know-what? As long as you're able to find something that you feel comfortable on, right? So as much as this was running at the time, I was more so sitting on my hands. I was also looking at other trades, seeing if I could try and jump in on something. Mara, AMD, Rumble at the time too, but I wasn't as jumpy towards it yesterday compared to today. But you know, nonetheless, this is just moseying on up, right? All right. Well, here, this is yesterday. Look at this orange line. It's about 9,000, 10,000 shares there. Okay, well, what's bigger? The one at 45 right now, the 13,000, or this? Well, the 13,000, the one live right now, actually. Well, take a look at what pops up. And let's zoom in on this. How frequent do we see this pop up on any stock? So this is an entire stack of iceberg orders here showing up on the buy side at 40.40, at 40.60, 40.80, 41, 41.30, and 41.50. You know, Fausto is trying to bring this phrase like a 6-layer cake, an 8-layer cake into the fold here, like, you know, the lingo we speak. And it's true, this is like a giant cake where you have this stack one after another, right? You know, I kind of consider it like a web of support. It's like a spider web, basically, right? So for this to be as visible as you see it as, like 20,000 stacked up, you know, hey, maybe if this was a $2 stock, that wouldn't be so surprising. Folks, this is a $41.50 stock. So, you know, we'll even do a little math here. What? You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of those out there. 20,000 a pop will average it out to. So that's 120,000 shares in total. We'll probably average the cost of those shares to be at like $41. Makes sense? Oh, an extra zero. Breaking out the old calculator here. It's about $5 million worth of orders. A little under $5 million worth of orders out there. Our whole philosophy is to follow the big money, folks. Do you think that's big money or do you think that's tiny money? $5 million popping up out of the blue like that. So the issue is on this trade, again, for as easy on the eyes as this is right now, this is a pretty damn dangerous stock. I mean, hey, it popped and dropped for us back in 2021. Granted, it popped for us at the time. We made a lot of money on it back then. It'll drop back down. And we don't want to be on the part where we're catching a falling knife, right? So this is still a very volatile stock. It's on a big spread still, and it's a little expensive, mind you. So let me ask us here really quickly in the chat. And I'm just asking to ask. There's no competition. I don't give a you-know-what, really. It's just more for the sake of a group study. Let's say if this was a $5 stock, how many shares would you personally be trading of this if it was like a typical $5 stock that was up big on the day? There's no you-know-what contest here. All right, because $5 stock is pretty moderately priced. You could do 500,000 shares of that. You could do more if you got a larger size or larger account and you really feel good about your setup there, right? Or you could do less. You could do 100 shares. You could do 200 shares. I'm just asking you personally. Okay, so everyone giving me a mixed bag of answers, right? Rightfully so. Everyone's their own trader. Okay, well, if that's the case for a $5 stock, how many shares would you be trading for a $41 stock? Because it shouldn't be the same size. It should be in proportion. It should be a lot different. If you're doing 1,000 shares of a $5 stock, you should be doing like, everyone's their own person again, but less. 500 shares, 100 shares, 50 shares, right? So that's where on this trade for me, it was 100 shares, which is still a lot of money into one position for a $41 stock, right? But I'm not trading anything else at this given time. And if I was doing that even during the market open session, I'm still not dipping my hand into too many pots. It's really just one or two trades per, rotation or at a time. Brian says switch to options at that price. Well, okay, so that's okay, great point, right? Very good point. And perhaps I would have thought about doing that if I even had the time. I was just in the moment where I saw it pull down and I said, you know what, let's just kind of stick on this trade here. I did not even open up my option trading platform. I didn't look into the option chain. My assumption was also that they were already going to be pretty thin. Jill says the options are extremely expensive. Well, that too, I mean, expensive, but that could be even cheaper than the stock you're trading. The difference is that it's a lot thinner either way. And especially the more expensive it gets thinner from that point. The spread opens up that much more. So I felt confident with trading the equity. I wasn't going to increase my risk or exposure trading the option. It didn't make sense. So I didn't even open up my platform. But it's a good point in the sense that the premium is typically cheaper compared to $41. You know what I mean? But here, I only just did the stock. And this stack of iceberg orders was so unique looking to me that we rarely see something like this show up for any trade, let alone a, more volatile level 5 stock. So let me ask us here. What's 1 plus 1? What's 1 plus 1, folks? It's 2. It's never 3. It's never 0, right? It's 2. So with that said, I want to have faith in this stack as a potential support. I'm not going to be caught up in the moment. I'm going to follow this with it being as unique looking as it is, right? If I'm harping on how unique it is, then why would I lose sight of it? But that means, though, I need to be very certain by the time it comes down there, hey, let's make sure that we at least set our stop. And I do this on small size. Because for as much as it could drop down, well, in hindsight, we know that it's moved back up. So obviously this ended up bouncing, but here's what I want to show you. This comes down. Oh, even more icebergs pop up. How about that? Even better. So if you're not convinced from this, even more, right? So more 20,000 share buy orders popping up. But basically, drops through these and begins to bounce. And by the time it comes down here, I really begin my entry right around 41. So I'm doing 50 shares a pop, and I just averaged into this at first. So my trade on this was at 40.82, I think, at the end of it all. It dropped down a little bit on me, but keep in mind, I'm doing this on a much smaller share size. So if I'm down $1 on 50 shares, I'm down $50. Have I been down $50 on a trade before? Yes. Yes. $50 is not necessarily an earth-shattering loss. I don't necessarily like taking a $50 loss, but that's 5 cents on 1,000 shares. If you can't risk that, then you are never going to have the confidence to trade 1,000 shares over time. So, that's why I'm doing this on smaller size. I averaged into it here just as it was shaking around. So by the time it pushed back up towards 41, I wanted to add the second half. I do remember my overall position was at like $40.82. So at that time, it ended up beginning to make its move. I set my stop right below 41 or below even here, even at the time. And I didn't really have much of a concern because you knew pretty quickly when a stock breaks through a big level, I think you know that what we're going to get pretty shortly after. It doesn't guarantee up, but it guarantees a big move shortly after. So that means this is either going to continue to pull back, and at that point, it's definitely going to crap out and like completely wash out all gains, like if it really breaks lower. Otherwise, I'm not in the market to make a smaller profit. And I don't mean that just in terms of dollars profit-wise. Because on 100 shares, if I make $1, all right, that's $100. That's not, a terrible profit. But let's just kind of look at how much this stock even moved up and then shook back down. Even from here at 11 o'clock in the morning, it went from 34 to 46.50. That's a hell of a move up, and then all the way back down to 40 basically. So why can't this make a $2 move, a $4 move, a $5 move? Let me ask us even outside of the dollar levels, $1 whole number levels, what would be our next set of levels above $1 levels? Think like more abstract than that, psychological levels. No, 50 cents is smaller than a dollar, guys. Remember, 50 cents smaller than a dollar. So think more abstract psychological levels, right? Gary hit it though, $5, right? And then after that, you could say decade levels, $10 levels. All right, well, let's just use 5. Let's use 5. Answer the sequence for me, folks. 35, 40, then what? 45, everyone says. And then after that, what? After 45, what comes after 45? Simple, right? Now, these are more abstract psychological levels where you're going to typically see orders out there, but even if you do not, they should still be widely regarded as key levels to work off of for any trade, and especially for something more volatile like this. So with that said, once it bounced up from here, how could I not think a move at least back up to $45? If you're on YouTube right now, I strongly recommend for you to join us inside our live trading room. You get the full rendition of this Traders Talk workshop. And what I mean by that is where we're talking about DWAC. Well, if you look in the chat board right now, I think it's showing up right now. I'm trying to have it pop up in the main chat here. If you happen to see a chat pop up that says DWAC, nice pop back up, ... back to 45. Well, I wrote that at 2:15 in the afternoon yesterday. That's a real-time call out I wrote in the afternoon yesterday. And it's because, hey, once it's making a push and it held a higher low, moving up, moving up, moving up, why not think if it's not going to break any lower, there's a good case for this to try and run back up, right? So from there, I scaled out on the first half of my position at 45, and then from there again, just afterwards, before the close, before class even started, I got out. So it's just simply, you don't need to trade large size on a trade like this because it's moving so fast. But otherwise, hey, I wouldn't have been interested in this trade if we didn't have such a good signal, if we didn't have such an easy signal out there to at least keep our eyes on. Where we talk about the shiny object in the room. Well, I refer to that being like, a stock just making a very strong run up over time. You want to know what a shiny object in the room is? Great call out from our member here earlier today because it was very timely. But this is like a pop and drop to the extreme type of stock. This is a super low float type of trade. And you know that stock is a lot more prone to make that utter crash back down. And if there's no real selling point on us jumping in, then we're not. It's as simple as that. Hey, we're here not just to have fun, folks. We're here to, hey, supplement our income. Let's just put it that way, right? And otherwise, perhaps make this our full-time job. I'm working with a bunch of different students all over, and I always do. But I have a pair of brothers that are looking to make this just their full-time gig and look to do this full-time just over time. And they have the time and the opportunity to do it. Just got off a call earlier just with a gentleman, and I think how he phrased it, oh my God, you're going to kill me for not remembering, Alex. He had this kind of come to Jesus moment, basically, as he phrased it. And that's how he phrased it. But it was more like, enough of the let me give it a shot type of trades. That's how he kind of phrased, enough of those. And if you're not going to have any clear selling point to jump into a trade, then it's more or less one of those, let me give it a shot. Let me just poke at it. Let me see. That does not get you far. That doesn't gain you confidence long term. So if there's a stock that runs without me after, and I'm not confident with a clear sign to jump in, okay, I'll study it afterwards and say, was there one? Maybe there was something I just wasn't as focused on at the time, and take that away as a learning lesson, mind you. But I'm not going to be all like fussy in the moment about it, like all pissy, like, oh, I missed out on it. No. I mean, hey, market's not closing permanently, folks. So we'll be back at it just this afternoon inside our live trading room. Tomorrow, we'll be back at it. We'll be back at it Thursday, etc. But that's where we're going back to DWAC. Well, of course, it ended up making that move yesterday. You know what? Let's actually, really quick if I can, I know that this is kind of moving right now. Let's see. There we go. That was the chart from yesterday. We're going to just do something fun here because I didn't plot levels for this trade this morning. I didn't. I was more focused on Rumble. Easier stock to follow, right? A lot easier on the eyes, at least. Order book, a lot more filled in. RUM, that is, the stock. But let's actually go back to this on the heat map. Where were these iceberg orders again? I just want to do an exact plot. At least the bottom of these. They're from 40.40 up to basically 41.50, kind of every 20 cents there. Okay. So let's just plot those lines really briefly and just do a loose approximation. It won't be perfect. Just get a few out there. Just get a few out there for right now. You got 40.40, 40.60, 40.80 right there. Bingo. Obviously, you can't forget 41 because that was an iceberg order. We'll kind of do this sloppily, right? Got this big stack of lines here, right? You don't need to make them as fat or as wide, right? You can skinny these up a little bit. But either way, where does that lead me? Well, that leads me to today. And DWAC came back down towards that stack of volume. And earlier this morning in the commentary I had with Fausto, that's exactly what I was calling out. I was commenting on this just real time in the moment, saying, hey, if this can come back down towards this stack of iceberg orders here, there's a good chance we could see a bit of a bounce. We don't like catching a falling knife. That's the issue. So there's actually easier trades that I lost money on this morning because I was looking for a similar move. It's just that it didn't give me the type of bounce that this thing gave me. So I was a lot more confident with taking this trade and at least pressing the buy button. I'm not doing this on big size. It was still the same 100 shares. But it's just that, hey, if there's a big enough level for me to be drawn to, and especially if it worked out just the day before, just yesterday, proof is literally in my pudding that it's made me money, then why not go back to the well? Why not go back to the well in that case? We don't like going back to the well generally with falling in love with the same stock over and over and over and over and over. Trust me, tomorrow I'm probably not going to be following DWAC as strongly. But given what happened yesterday, transparently enough, I'm going to go over a question from a student on DWAC and other stocks too coming up. But if you're up a certain amount of money, not even just dollars, but let's say cents or dollars per share that you're in on, like let's say if you're up $5 per share and you're not normally up $5 per share on a given trade, like regardless of the total actual dollar amount that you're profiting on, you should probably be more keen to take the profit, right? Probably feel more keen to just take the money and run. There's no real science or mathematic reason to, feel good with just taking money, right? So I want to get into that in just a little bit, but that's basically what happened here where, hey, I'm not looking for a small move. And honestly, a small move here is a big move for a cheaper stock. For a less volatile stock, if this is making a 40-cent little push off a level, that's not too big for this type of trade. But for a more level 1 or level 2 stock, damn, 40 cents is a really nice trade. So you have to know your worth on any position, this or a cheaper, slower stock. But I do want to get to an email. I want to go to the SGMT trade. Wow, I actually got a ton of emails that came in over the last hour, actually. So I was on a coaching call with one of our students. I didn't even realize how many more just came in. So I will get back to all of us, if not over this workshop, then just via email later on today. But hey, early bird gets the answers, don't they? And I had one come in from one of our traders, and I actually saved it for Traders Talk. It was my intent to say, all right, let me actually save this one for Traders Talk because it's more of an in-depth one. And it was on SGMT. So I can mention this trader's name because they made a really nice trade on it. There's no wrong with the trade that they made, but I just want to kind of go into this a bit because they're a longtime student that, hey, you can't be complaining about this profit here. All right. That's kind of my point. So I'm saying this in all good and love. But this trader that sent over this email did really well on this stock. They killed it. Pre-market yesterday, they got like $2 per share. I need to pull up this email. One second. I've had it lost in my inbox here. Okay. So basically, in 3 minutes time, they made nearly $2. They made $1.75 a share in like 3 minutes time. Now, they did this in pre-market. They did this trading within the pre-market hours. Got in from 973, sold at 1148. Okay. I know that they know this in the back of their head, but there's a conversation I need to have with them privately on a coaching call. But for all of us, at least, it's to say perspective is everything. We can't go back on every singular trade and ask, how can I hold on to this longer? Because every trade is different. And, maybe certain trades will be grouped together with maybe a certain mistake you might be, making, or something you're not looking at as much. Or hell, maybe you're up as much as you are, and rightfully so, you should be getting out. And that's what happened with this trader. They were up $1.73 per share. Who the hell wouldn't want to get out when they're up $1.73 per share, right? So let me ask us this question really briefly. Let's pretend this was a $5. No, let's pretend this was a $10 stock, but let's pretend it was during the regular hours, not pre-market. Let's also pretend that this was not a crazy level 5 stock. Let's pretend that this was a very tame level 2 type of stock. Everyone can kind of get their hands in on that type of trade, right? Let's say it makes a nice move, like as good of a move as you could ever wish for or call out for on a stock. And it runs up to like, $11 even. Let's say you make 55 cents on that trade. On a scale of 1 to 10, how happy would you be that you made the 55 cents on that trade? On a scale of 1 to 10. Now, it moved up to $11 later on. And let's say it moved up even higher later. Let's say it moved up to even 12. A lot of us saying 9 or 10. Yeah, rightfully so. Now, the reason that you could be saying that, and hey, you let me know here. How often are you up 55 cents a trade? On any stock? How often? Because for me, I'm not doing 55 cents every single trade that I'm taking, because some stocks might not offer me 55 cents. They might offer me 20 cents and then they pull back, and that's good enough for that move. Every stock's different. But if you personally are finding it difficult to make 20 cents a trade, let alone 55 cents a trade, then what happens when you're up $1.73? Now, question here really briefly, great segue actually from Martin, one of our trial members here. Isn't it better to talk in percentages? It is, but here's the issue with that though, Martin. There are stocks that make extraordinary moves that we are calling out. So when you think of it that way, it's going to go against you in the way of you might be looking for a certain percentage when the stock is clearly overextended, or otherwise, and this part may not hurt you as much, but it's just that's where you may get out way too soon looking for a specific percentage, but then the stock just over exceeds based on the levels in which it's trading, the iceberg levels that it's trading. So there is a lot of moving parts that make up any given trade, not just the CTU strategy here, but that's where, hey, let's just focus on the conditions that this trade was taken in. It was taken in pre-market. So that's even riskier. You can't set stop orders in pre-market, folks. I hear or I see every now and then, I got stopped out in pre-market. I don't know if that's their own personal lingo or if they're making it up. You cannot use stop orders in pre-market. You cannot do that. So that's what makes it that much more dangerous. And with saying that there, for this trader that made such a beautiful profit on this trade, the question is not how could I hold on longer? Because if you're always thinking that way, eventually you're going to get your ass burned on a position, right? Now, I say that to everybody. This trader is a longtime student who knows their stuff, and I bust their chops every now and then. And they know who they are here. So they killed it on this trade. The question is not how do I hold on longer? The question is, hey, if there's an opportunity, how could I get back in? Could I ask you folks really quick, what was the first word of that question I just asked there? It's kind of a lengthy question there. I'll give you the quick answer. The first word in that question was if. If the stock gives us an opportunity again. So not every stock gives you that opportunity, right? Now for this, how do we find an opportunity again? Well, this was taken in pre-market. So typically, like we spoke about even in phase 1 class yesterday, when the about 15, 20 minutes prior to the opening bell, you want to take your money anyway. Just allow the stock a chance to breathe and relax and give yourself a chance to breathe and relax. Right? How about that? So that's one thing. And then after the first 5 minutes of the market opening up, then from there, there's a chance for you to try and capitalize and take it again. But in simple terms of seeing big buying coming in from pre-market hours, well, why not think that big buying can create a potential support level? Like, hey, it looks like shortly after the open, it popped back up again, and it even got halted, right? And I don't have any lines on this chart here. I didn't line this chart up going into yesterday. So honestly, what I'll do for us here, just because I mentioned it to us earlier, we speak about these $5 and $10 price levels here. So 15, I'm sure, had some big significance to it early before the open, holding it as resistance loosely. 20 up top. That's easy to say. It kind of topped off there, basically, broke over and under it, came back down, right? But otherwise, though, let's say if you are this trader and you killed it on this stock in pre-market, you made $1.70 or so. And, hey, it was on 100 shares. So that's a really nice profit before 9:30, right? So with saying that, hey, is there any clear level I could work off of here? Is there an iceberg? Is there a big level from Bookmap here that I could focus on? My answer, not really. Well, at least looking at the heat map, not really. Because we see these orange lines pop up, but it's only about 2,000 shares. 2,000 shares is not large. That's not an iceberg. I would not have any faith in that as a key level at all. But that's where maybe we could look kind of towards the CVP column, the delta column I like there. And one thing that we could at least attest to is that we have some good buying coming in off of 13 at first. Looks like at least more buying than selling at 13 compared to any other price level. And then from there, if it drops really that far, then maybe right above 1250 could be a stronger support level as like your last line, 1257 or so. It looks like it kind of peaks at there. These two. So let's just kind of take a look. Doesn't even drop that far. Might have egg on my face here. Nope, it doesn't drop that far. It doesn't go that low. So even if you're looking for that pullback, which, mind you, would have been pretty sweet if it dropped down that far. But otherwise from here, it didn't go that low. Okay, well, was there another level that we could have used? And the answer to that is going to be yes. You could say it's 15. But I want to see where the opening bell print is on this trade. That's kind of what I'm kind of gearing us towards. Oh, well, that makes it that much easier. It's exactly at 15. So just where you would assume 15 to be a key level anyway, well, this is your opening bell print. It's not even at a different price. It's simply right at $15. Makes it very convenient for us to use that as a potential level. So by the time it ends up breaking back over 15, easy to say it halts, but we already had some good buying interest here by the time the market opened. Yeah, it dropped back down a little bit, but the key is we want to ask, what happens if we continue to see more buying coming in? So I was looking for that off of 13 on a pullback. It didn't drop that low. Not only is there this big green dot, 51,000 shares here, you see it on CVP, see it on the delta column. That's all from this dot mainly, but that's where 15 became such an important level throughout the morning. It looks simple, but by the time it rebroke over the level, keyword rebroke, meaning not just the first break, it ended up making that halt. Not only that, it looks like it tried to come down and hold a support initially. It led to a decent dollar bounce during kind of late morning time, but then obviously broke lower. So, typically over time, we pretty much just move away from trades like these throughout the afternoon. Looks like this even gave us one more run back up, but obviously failed to at least break back over 20. It looks like it tested it by the time it hit 3:30 in the afternoon here, but that's all there was to it. So, hey, going back to DWAC, going back to DWAC here, or even from yesterday for that matter, I took half my position out by the time it hit 45, and that was pretty much before the afternoon meeting started, or right as we were beginning the afternoon meeting. It was popping up here, and I took the first part of my position out. Well, how often am I up 5 points per share? Well, it's not as often that I'm trading a more expensive stock, but even on like AMD, maybe on AMD, I can make 5 points a share because it's a $160 stock. But this is pretty unique. This was a hell of a move off the support level. It was as clean of a bounce as you could ever imagine. So am I going to ask, how could I hold on to that one position longer? Or am I going to ask, okay, what if there's a new opportunity to retake this trade? Am I there to take it? Am I confident enough in what I say? So, hey, the more that we kind of just think that same question of how do I hold on longer? Well, hey, there's times where you probably should hold on longer, but that's not the case for every trade. So, especially when you're playing in a much more dangerous environment that this student was taking this trade in pre-market, hey, they know what they're doing. I have full faith in this student. I've remained them unnamed, but it's not for any bad reason. It's just I'm kind of busting their chops a slight bit, but they know I love them. It's simply put that you don't want to ask that question permanently because you're going to get slaughtered on a trade over time, right? Especially if you don't set your stop. And that's a separate talking point for everyone here, right? From Martin here really quick in the chat, what about getting out with, say, half position? Well, that's what I did on DWAC. Right now even, jump back. Right now from just this morning, same exact trade I just went over, just from this morning's levels. It's the setup I just mentioned, just from 40.78 this time. Actually pretty damn close to yesterday's price. 40.82, 40.78, pretty close from yesterday's exact entry price. That's where I said here, even before Traders Talk, that's what I did. I took half my position out where, hey, I moved my stop up even from there. So if it tanked here as we were teaching, then I would have been out with profit and would have been happy. When it comes to risk management, what we want to do is put a smile on our face at the end of the trade. The only person you're competing against is yourself. So this trading room might promote hey, well, it promotes a great family vibe, of course, and camaraderie, most importantly. But we don't want anyone to come off as a blowhard or a show off and look at me. That's not the point of this here. So really, you want to kind of learn from certain trades and say, okay, it's not how do I hold on longer, but how could I study this and maybe see a similar pattern tomorrow, right? And of course, you could do that from your own journaling. You could do that from Traders Talk workshops here, classes, coaching one-on-one, of course. But hey, even this right now, well, if it pulls back, it stops me out. If it pops up higher, well, my next big level is $50. That's my next key level on this one trade, just because psychologically, decade level, it's actually half of a century level right there. And it topped off there early this morning too, shortly after the open. I think also that was a pretty strong daily chart level here too, if I'm not mistaken. Let me go back here briefly. I don't know if I need to go back this far. Not as much. Talking about this right here. Just shortly over $50, pretty clean spikes back from 2022 early. And from there, it pulled back. So once again, it looks like it kind of just poked there this morning and pulled back. Wouldn't shock me if it tries to make one more push there again, though, this afternoon. Mike saying, do you move your limit sell order as price reaches potential resistance? Yeah, I mean, I'm typically moving I'm not typically moving my stop up throughout the trade, but mentally I always am. It's just more or less once I'm really in the money and I'm in a pretty good position with any trade, then I'll look to do it from that point. But if I am only up just a smaller amount to begin, I'm not moving my stop up yet. That's where you get stopped out too soon and you take the tiny, tiny profits. And to me, I'm not just trying to swing for the fences, but there's a reason why I say every single day here to everyone, when a stock breaks through a big level, we're looking for a big move, right? Hey, really quick, actually, I was going to just bring this up briefly, plug. So I was on a call with one of our students just before I mentioned, and I was saying to him, like right around 330-ish, maybe like 332-ish right here, back from November of last year into December, pretty strong support, right? Well, that's pretty similar to at least a strong level that you can stumble upon and say, okay, what if the stock breaks above this level here? Tried in pre-market, and it was a great trade in pre-market actually, but clearly this stock has not dropped off lower. It hasn't continued to stumble off yet. Hasn't made a lower low. In fact, right now it's moving back up to resistance again. So what happens the more times the stock is nipping and gnawing at a level like that? Well, you telling me? I'd like to think that we should get a more conclusive reaction than just 5 pennies. So, really quick housekeeping note: if you hear some banging going outside in the background of my voice here, my home office is conveniently placed right near a window, which is very nice. Get some good sunlight in my home office now, but I got some construction going on. You might hear that. All right, so what else we got here, folks? Really quick, I want to go through some other questions or emails, namely, like we said, early bird gets the answers. So actually just a couple things I want to go through via email here. All right, so from one of our students, Jith, just asking, hey, can you go over the breakout and quick flush for the plug trade? Okay, so convenient segue. We'll take that. Okay, so here we go. Right back to plug. 9:13 this morning. Okay, so here we go. This is one thing right away where I'll say 9:13 in the morning. Well, again, typically you should be not really jumping into trades at that point. You should be getting out of trades really around 9:15, 9:20-ish. Give yourself a chance to breathe and relax. Give the stock a chance to breathe and relax. That's not the one reason as to why this trade didn't work for the student, but that's just the first thing that I say when I see the time 9:13 in the email. It's just what we go over in class. We literally went over that 18 hours ago, 20 hours ago. So that's where in class we talk about timing of the day. But in terms of plug, it looks like it was moving up pretty nicely. Yeah, it was pushing up, but the stock started at 280 and it was having a tough time already when it was at like 350-ish, 360-ish. Just plot a line at 350, just 50-cent level there. But, it looks like it tried to hold above the 332, which was more of a daily chart level. Looks pretty clean on the chart to me from here. And it just had a tough time making that cleaner breakout and hold above 350. So it tried to move above it, and it just couldn't hold over. And if it's not going to do that, then it's going to come next. So if you're in from 350, then worst case scenario here, it's not even to take a losing trade. You started off nice on this. Started off up like 12 cents, actually, looks like. That's not a big move necessarily, but that's not a small move by any stretch of the measure. So this is just unfortunately one where if you took this trade, which I don't recommend jumping in that late into the pre-market, it's just you got to be getting out break even. That's a break even trade at worst. You don't want to take a loss on it. Also, though, Rumble after the market opened up, thought 618 to 619 was a breakout level, but the price crashed as soon as it broke over it. So that, let's dig into. Question is why? Why was 618 to 619 a breakout level? Was there 50,000 share iceberg order there? Was it a strong chart level? Well, it looks like a strong chart level. It looks like right around 608 strong chart level. And then it peaked around 617, which is pretty much where this trader was kind of referencing. Let's just look at Bookmap because that's basically going to give us the best answer. I look at these daily chart levels and they could work. But otherwise, what's on Bookmap? Is there anything strong from there? Yeah, I mean, it ended up moving above it. You know what, actually? There is some funny business happening here on the order book for Rumble. You have a ladder on the bid, so that looks good on the eyes. But by the time this order gets pulled, it starts moving up a little bit more. Then some new orders show up. You're not really seeing anything that's there for a long period of time at one price. Yeah, this is here at this one price, but then it's moving around up and down here. So I want to have faith in a specific price if I'm focused on the order book Otherwise, when I look at CVP, all right, this sticks out a little bit. This sticks out a little bit here from pre-market, right around basically $6. There is an orange line there, but it's not there for too long. But it's simply that, all right, there's a decent spike of volume off of 6. That could be a decent level to work off of potentially. There's not much to go over on this trade, to be transparent, because again, the first 5 minutes, we shouldn't be jumping in. So if the question is like what went wrong, it's that you were probably in the trade before the market opened up, or you probably took the trade on the first minute, and we just strongly advise not to do that. It's just kind of what I'm seeing here, at least. And normally I'd say there could be more to it, 1 or 2 things else we could look at, but that's pretty much it to me. You know what I mean? We just went over this even in class, again, less than 24 hours ago. So, that's for everyone here. Please make sure that you're going through all of our classes, and, hey, not just once. You don't need to go through every class and be there with me every single month. If you got the time to, then hey, that'd be nice. But otherwise, at least more than just once. It's going to take more than just one actual go around of our classes to just say, okay, I got everything soaked in the back of my head here. We're good to go. Trust me. I've been doing this for, nearly 10 years still at this point, and there's always new learning lessons that you could reinforce on, or reinforce yourself on. Plug pushing up right now, moving over that 332 price like we were hoping for. All right. Question from Martin. Actually, just got your email right now, Martin. There we go. Just going from bottom to top here. So the other day, someone mentioned options. Do they apply to day trading? Absolutely. Just here's the issue, right? This is what we'll always say. This is a strong cardinal belief at CTU, and it's because it's true, and Fausto will be the first to mention it. It's the underlying move of the stock that affects the option. Like if you're just doing simple puts and calls, it's the underlying move of the stock that affects the premium. So it's not a 100% correlation, and there's more volatility implied with the options market compared to stocks. That's where you're going to get stopped out more frequent trading options compared to trading the stock, even if you're using the same exact strategy, copy and paste. That doesn't mean that it's impossible. It simply means that we want you to become more fluent with trading stocks and using our strategy on stocks first. And then once you get a really sound grip on that, over a number of months, then we'd say, hey, if you're feeling good about it and you're seeing it in the results yourself, then certainly look to apply that strategy towards options. But you got to make sure the option order book is like very liquid, not thin and spread out. And that's kind of a tough ask to begin with on a lot of these trades. So that's all I really focus on, though, with options. I don't look at the Greeks. I don't do condors, any of that stuff, credit, debit spreads, blah, blah, blah. Teach their own on that, right? I don't want to just dismiss that if people do those, but it just, that's not really what we focus on as CTU. You could follow level 3 and level 4 extremely well and apply that to, using just simple puts and calls, though. All right, folks, I got to wrap up right here. I got to jump onto a coaching session or 3 throughout my afternoon. So with that said, hey, we hope that you had learned and took something away from this workshop, as we do on any of these classes. But if you're interested in joining our live trading room, just for all of us on social media, just scan that QR code on the top left of the stream right there. And we look forward to seeing you inside our live trading room. I'll get my webcam back up for next week. I don't know what happened there from the top. I'll get my ugly mug back showing again. But hey, be a friend, tell a friend at Cyber Trading U. Just make sure that you're followed and subscribed to our YouTube channel and all of our social media streams and platforms, just so you know when we're going live, when we're not. Of course, we do stream live each and every day in the morning and the afternoon. But if you wanted to get the full commentary, the full service of our trading room, especially being in there with successful students like Bill, Kathleen, Grant, etc., and all of our instructors, myself, but of course the man himself, Fausto Pugliese, just scan that QR code on the top left of the stream and we'll get you access right there for a week-long trial. But again, folks, I'll be back on just at 2:30 for the afternoon session. Talk to everybody then. Take care.